Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to TTV News with some last events in our province, and now we come into details. Ladies and gentlemen, facing the complicated situation of the COVID-19, a disease caused by novel coronavirus, the Office of Education and Training of Tây Ninh City drastically directed schools to carry out disease prevention. According to Tây Ninh City Office of Education and Training, many schools in the city have prepared hand sanitizers in the restrooms and along the corridors. Schools will continue to order hand sanitizers and medical face masks to make sure each classroom has at least one sanitizer bottle. Students who do not bring face masks will be given them for free. And every corner of the schools has also been sterilized. Teachers have spoken to parents about virus prevention measures and help students review lessons through online chat groups. Schools in the city will be sterilized one more time before they are reopened. The prevention measure will be added to the curriculum on the first day after the students return to school. The Ministry of Health this week has said schools nationwide were allowed to reopen if the hygienic measures are ensured. Schools have been asked to make preparations to teach students lessons they miss and ensure hygienic conditions as recommended by the Health Ministry. Missy Lu Thị Thu, Vice Chief of the City Office of Education and Training, says schools have 2 body temperature thermometers to measure students' temperature before and after classes. The department said the office has 1 training section for disease prevention and propagation, and 54 over 54 schools and school principals have a thorough grasp of this disease prevention content. The Education Office shall coordinate with the health center in detailing how to clean and disinfect and prevent the epidemic. In general, the city schools strictly implement the prevention and control of COVID-19 in order to ensure a safe environment for children in the school. The Vietnam Social Security organized a teleconference on February the 15th to review the 25 years implementation of the social health insurance policies and the 2020 tasks. The teleconference was attended and chaired by Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc, and attending at Tây Ninh Bridge Point, there was Mr. Nguyễn Thành Ngọc, Permanent Vice Chairman of Provincial People's Committee. Speaking in the conference, the Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc highlighted the Vietnam Social Security role as the main pillar in the social security system over the last 25 years. As of the end of 2019, the social insurance covered nearly 16 million people, equivalent to 32.3% of the workforce, and health insurance covered nearly 86 million people, over 90% of the country's population. The government leaders also emphasized that the social insurance coverage must be expanded. He added that the caring for people's life, health, and prosperity is the responsibility of the party and the state, and that it is necessary to have a social security system that covers all peoples and matches international standards. The Prime Minister also urged for regular overhauling of social and health insurance policies and laws in line with the international practices, stronger administrative procedure reforms, completion of the national database on insurance, better connection and information sharing among ministry and sectors, and processing on administrative procedures on the national e-document exchange platform to help build an e-government. And on February the 15th, Bạc Liêu Provincial Party Committee delegation, headed by Mr. Nguyễn Quang Dương, member of the Party Central Committee, Secretary of Provincial Party Committee, has visited, worked, and exchanged experience on agricultural development, especially high-tech agriculture, with Tây Ninh Provincial Standing Party Committee. At the meeting, leader of the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, Department of Planning and Investment of Tây Ninh Province reported briefly on some key socio-economic features and situation of agricultural development in Tây Ninh Province in 2019. Accordingly, Tây Ninh Province has now approved the scheme of developing value chains agricultural cluster in Tây Ninh Province. This is an important project to promote the potential and strengths of provincial agricultural products and attract investment in agriculture. The tendency of covering plants into the 3 big economic value. Besides, the province has also established agricultural production models applying high technology, net house techniques, membrane houses combined with the drip irrigation techniques, and supply nutrients through irrigations and light humidity regulation systems. Speaking at the meeting, Secretary of the Ninh Provincial Party Committee Phạm Viết Thành also outlined some key features of the province development orientation in 2020 and the following years, including focusing on tourism development, developing high-tech agriculture. Mr. Phạm Viết Thành, Secretary of the Provincial Party Committee, hoped that in the coming time, the two provinces would continue to cooperate and exchange appearances to promote developing relationships. Bạc Liêu Provincial Party Committee Secretary Nguyễn Quang Dương also thanked the warm welcome of the leaders of the Ninh province and congratulated the achievements of the Ninh in recent years, especially in 2019. Mr. Nguyễn Quang Dương said that although the Ninh is border province with low starting point, but with the tradition of the resilient and loyal homeland, the Ninh Provincial Party Committees had led the province to develop more and more. And what Bạc Liêu province needs to learn from Tây Ninh province is to establish a breakthrough steering committee for socio-economic development. In order to improve the quality and effectiveness of administrative reforms, Đăng has strengthened the operating the unit of receiving and returning the results according to Government's Decree number 61, dated on April the 23rd of 2018, and implemented the current plan number 1553, dated on June the 29th of 2018 of Provincial People's Committee. In 2019, Đăng promotes administrative reforms in the field of documents handling for organizations and individuals, promotes application and information technology in administrative reforms in order to quickly solve the dossier for the people, control the work process of civil servants, and from the results achieved, has created confidence and reduced travel time of the people. Đăng performed well listing and publicizing administrative procedures, mailbox addresses, and hotline numbers for receiving, reflecting and making recommendations on administrative procedures in accordance with the regulations, receiving and processing nearly 3,200 documents for citizens and returning results on time according to administrative procedures at the one-stop shop sections. The southern province of Tây Ninh is working hard to support local enterprises to realize the targets in the export turnover set for this year amidst the unexpected developments of the novel coronavirus COVID-19. The Provincial People's Committee will take drastic measures to improve the investment and business environment, to push ahead with projects on enhancing of efficiencies and sustainable development of agriculture to 2025. Incentives will be made to encourage the application of advanced techniques in farming and agriculture and clean technologies in processing in order to improve the output and quality of products. During a recent meeting, the chairman of Provincial People's Committee, Phạm Văn Tân, asked relevant departments and sectors of the locality to keep a close watch on the situation in order to keep local enterprises updated, thus helping them proactively prepare production and processing plans. Local enterprises will also be benefit from preferential policies on capital and interest rates. According to the Provincial Department of Industry and Trade, the newly ratified European Union Vietnam Free Trade Agreement (EVFTA) would help Vietnam expand products to European markets. Export enterprises in Thành should strive to fully tap opportunities brought about by the agreement to increase the export turnover of key products. The local firms generated an estimated of $40 million from export in January of 2020, up 7% year-on-year. The remaining export markets were the US, Japan, South Korea, Canada, Australia, China, and European nations. And in 2019, Vietnam attracted about $38 billion in foreign direct investment (FDI, exceeding the annual forecast. FDI disbursement reached more than $20.38 billion, the highest annual result so far. These results added bright points to Vietnam's 2019 economic picture. And now we come to the reporters about in the 2020, the FDI disbursement is forecast to account for 22 to 23% of the total investment in development. The $38 billion is the total amount of registered capital of the new FDI projects, increases in the capital of ongoing projects and stock purchases by foreign investors in 2019. The highest annual results in the past 10 years. Investment registration certificates were granted for 3,893 projects, with a total capital of $16.75 billion, equivalent to 93% of 2018 results. The foreign investment in Vietnam is concentrated in 19 economic sectors, In 2019, processing and manufacturing industries topped the list with about $24.56 billion, accounting for 64.6% of the total registered capital, followed by the real estate sector with about $3.88 billion, about 10%. The 2019 export value of FDI businesses reached about $191 billion, a year-on-year increase by 4.2%, accounting for 68.8% of Vietnam's total export value. The import value reached about $145.5 billion, up to 2.5% compared with 2018, and accounting for 57.4% of Vietnam's total import value. Among 126 countries and territories having investment projects in Vietnam, the Republic of Korea took the lead with a registered capital of nearly $8 billion. Hong Kong of China ranked the second with about $7.87 billion and followed by Singapore with about $4.18 billion. And in 2019, Vietnam disbursed a record of $20.38 billion for FDI capital. The Ministry of Planning and Investment, Foreign Investment Agency said that this was an encouraging achievement in a context of declining global FDI. Particularly for Tây Ninh province, last year the functional sector issued new registration certificates for about 621 enterprises with a total registered capital of over 11,500 billion Vietnam dong. In comparison with the same period, 10% of enterprises and about 134.96% of registered capital increase. On the average, the registered capital of enterprises in the Ninh province is about 18 billion Vietnam dong, an increase of 130% compared to the previous year. And according to the academics, the number of foreign small and medium-sized companies investing in Vietnam keep increasing in labor-intensive sectors, high-tech agriculture, organic farming, and consulting services. World-leading economic groups are also be expected to have large-scale investment projects in Vietnam in the fields of high-tech agriculture, future technology, smart city development, technical and social infrastructure construction. And notably, the 25% tax rate imposed by the U.S. government on imports from China requires Chinese companies to seek other export markets and increase overseas investment to cope with the U.S. measures. In this context, Chinese companies will seek opportunities to increase trade with Vietnam and boost direct investment in neighboring markets. And Vietnam must also be effectively implement Politburo Resolution number 50 regarding institutional improvements and policies that offer preferences to foreign investors in accordance with the international standards and commitments. The consistency, publicity, and transparency of policies should be ensured to encourage strategic investors and multinational groups to set up research and development and creative innovation centers in Vietnam. The linkage between the domestic and foreign investor should be promoted, and foreign companies should be encouraged to transfer technology and management skills to Vietnamese businesses. And that's all for today's TTV News. Thank you for being with us, and goodbye for now.